With a wave of fire rolling across the room, workers rushed to the windows, only to meet more fire. Hot air expands. Unless it escapes, pressure will keep building, eventually blowing a hole even in a heavy iron container like a boiler. Heat and pressure blew out the eighth floor windows. Firefighters call the result lapping in, that is, sucking flames into open windows above. That is why you see black scorch marks on the wall above the window of a burnt out room. With fire advancing from behind and flames rising before them, people knew they were doomed. Whatever they did meant certain death. By remaining in the room, they chose death by fire or suffocation. Jumping 95 feet to the ground meant death on the sidewalk. We cannot know what passed through the minds of those who decided to jump. Yet their thinking in those last moments of life may have gone like this: if I jump, my family will have a body to identify and bury. If I stay in this room, there will be nothing left. A girl clung to a window frame until flames from the eighth floor lapped in, burning her face and setting fire to her hair and clothing. She let go. Just then, Frances Perkins reached the scene from her friend's townhouse on the north side of Washington Square. "Here they come," onlookers shouted as Engine Company 72 reined in their horses. "Don't jump. Stay there." Seconds later, Hook and Ladder Company 20 arrived. Firefighters charged into the building, stretching a hose up the stairways as they went. At the sixth floor landing, they connected it to the standpipe. Reaching the eighth floor, they crawled into the inferno on their bellies, under the rising smoke with their hose. Yet nothing they did could save those at the windows. Photos of the portable towers show streams of water playing on the top three floors. A modern high-pressure pumper can send water as high as 1,000 feet. Plenty of water got through the windows, but not those with people standing in them. A burst of water under high pressure would have hurled them backward into the flames. Hoping to catch jumpers before they hit the ground, firefighters held up life nets, sturdy 10-foot square nets made of rope. It was useless. A person falling from the ninth floor struck with a force equal to 11,000 pounds. Some jumpers bounced off nets, dying when they hit the ground. Others tore the nets, crashing through to the pavement. "The force was so great it took men off their feet," said Captain Howard Rutch of Engine Company 18. Trying to hold the nets, the men turned somersaults. The men's hands were bleeding. The nets were torn and some caught fire from burned clothing. Officers, fearing their men would be struck by falling bodies, ordered the nets removed. The aerial ladders failed too, reaching only to the sixth floor. Desperate jumpers tried to grab hold of a rung on the way down, missed, and landed on the sidewalk. People began to jump singly or in groups of 2 or 3, holding hands as they stepped out of windows. William G. Shepard, a reporter for United Press, watched the shower of bodies in horror. "I saw every feature of the tragedy visible from outside the building. I learned a new sound, a more horrible sound than any description can picture. It was the sound of a speeding, living body on a stone sidewalk. Thud, dead. Thud, dead. Thud, dead. Thud, dead. 62 thud, dead. I called them that because the sound and the thought of death came to me each time. At the same instant, down came the bodies in a shower, burning, smoking, flaming bodies, and the disheveled hair trailing upward. On the sidewalk lay heaps of broken bodies. A policeman later went about with tags, which he fastened to the wires of the wrists of the dead girls. The floods of water from the fireman's hose that ran into the gutter was actually stained red with blood." Onlookers saw many dreadful sights, none more so than the end of a love affair. A young man appeared at a window. Gently he helped a young woman step to the window sill, held her away from the building, and let go. He helped another young woman onto the window sill. "Those of us who were looking saw her put her arms around him and kiss him," Shepard wrote. "Then he held her out to space and dropped her. But quick as a flash, he was on the window sill himself. He was brave enough to help the girl he loved to a quicker death after she'd given him a goodbye kiss." Meanwhile, others managed to reach the fire escape. It had not been designed for a quick exit. FDNY 6 experts later declared that those on the top 3 floors of the Ash building could not have made it to the ground in under 3 hours. In reality, they had only minutes. People crowded onto the fire escape. As they walked single file, flames lapped at them through broken windows. Worse, the human load became too heavy for the device to bear. Bolts that fastened it to the building became loose. It began to sway, then collapsed at the eighth floor, tumbling dozens into the courtyard. As the fire-crazed victims were thrown by the collapse of the fire escape, several struck the sharp-tipped palings. The New York Herald reported the body of one woman was found with several iron spikes driven entirely through it. Others crashed through the skylight into the room below, where they died on the cement floor. The 10th floor was the best place to be. Those who worked there, or reached it from the floor below, survived by dashing up the stairs to the roof. When they arrived, they found the roof 15 feet lower than its Washington Place neighbor, a building shared by New York University and the American Book Company. Luckily, Professor Frank Summer was teaching his law class in a room that overlooked the Ash building. When Summer realized what happened, he led his class to the roof of their building. They found 2 ladders left by painters during the week. Students lowered the ladders, climbed down, and helped survivors to safety. For some women, said Summer, it was necessary to beat out the flames that had caught their clothing, and many of them had blackened faces and singed hair and eyebrows. Yet only one person from the 10th floor died. Seeing flames licking up from the 9th floor, she panicked and jumped out a window. By 5:15 p.m., exactly 35 minutes after the flames burst from beneath a cutting table, firefighters had brought the blaze under control. An hour later, Chief Croker made his inspection. He found that the Ash building had no damage to its structure. Its walls were in good shape, so were the floors. It had passed the test. It was fireproof. The woodwork, furniture, cotton goods, and people who worked in it were not. Of the 500 Triangle employees who reported for work that day, 146 died. Of these, 16 men were identified. The rest were women, or bodies and body parts listed as unidentified. The Triangle Fire was New York's worst workplace disaster up to that time. Only the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center took more, about 2,500, lives. Chief Croker was no softy. He was used to the horrors that came with his job. But this was different. As he explored the top 3 floors of the Ash building, he saw sights that utterly staggered him. The New York World reported. In the drifting smoke, he had seen bodies burned to bare bones, skeletons bending over sewing machines. Those sights sent him down to the street with quivering lips. Next morning, March 26th, Chief Croker returned for another look. The only creatures he found alive were some half-drowned mice. He picked one up, stroked it gently, and put it in his pocket. The chief would take it home, he said. It's alive. At least it's alive.